fulfill the mayor's duties. At this time, I make a motion to appoint trustee Edie Sue Sutkar to serve as mayor pro temp. Thank you. I'll now call the roll. Trustee Robinson,
Yes.
trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
trustee Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Yes.
trustee Klein.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. We will be led this, thank you. We will be led this evening in the Pledge of Allegiance by Village Clerk Pramod Shah.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Trustee Robinson,
Here.
trustee Kuhn,
Here.
trustee Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Pure Slovin,
Here.
trustee Klein.
Here.
Mayor pro tem Sutkar.
Here, we have a quorum. Mayor Van Dusen had a planned event with his family this evening. Next item on the agenda is approval of the consent agenda. Is there anything that anyone would like removed? I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Trustee Robinson, seconded by trustee Kuhn. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Robinson,
Aye.
trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
trustee Johnson,
Aye.
trustee Pure Slovin,
Aye.
trustee Klein,
Aye.
Mayor pro tem Sutkar.
Aye, the motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the swearing in of Police Canine Jin by Village Clerk Pramod Shah.
Lead the way, sir, where to?
And with Jin is his handler, Officer Rob Ochoa.
Raise your right hand.
We'll stay. Stay. Stay.
I, Officer Ochoa,
I, Officer Ochoa,
on behalf of Canine Jane,
on behalf of K-9 Jim,
having been appointed
having been appointed
to the position of Canine Officer
to the position of K-9 officer
in the village of Skokie,
in the village of Skokie,
in the county of Cook,
in the county of Cook,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I and Jean
that I and Jin
will support the Constitution of the United States,
will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
the Constitution of the State of Illinois,
and that I and Jean
and that I and Jin
will faithfully discharge the duties of Canine Officer
will faithfully discharge the duties of a K-9 officer
according to the best of our ability.
according to the best of our ability.
So this is where the mayor would ask Jin to introduce his family and friends. So Officer Ochoa, I think you need to do that for him.
Well, my lovely fiance, recently new fiance, about a week or two ago, Jaylene is here. The rest of my family lives in Indiana. So.
Is Jessica Fong here? Jessica was the one who named Jim for us, so I wanted to recognize her. If you would stand up.
I'm gonna try to get him to bark real quick. You did a great job, man. You want to take a picture? Heel, heel, heel. That's it. Make like a whistling noise, too. A little more. Maybe a little more.
Thank you, Jessica. I want to recognize Chief Brian Baker, who's here with us tonight, and the rest of the force.
Jeff, bark. Bark. Bark.
Hey.
Oh, perfect, thank you. Oh, want me to open it now, or? Yeah. That's right there. Oh, we'll open this one then. Show these, look like I see chewy on it, so.
Must be dog treats.
Oh, that's really cute. It's a Star Wars, toy gift box. Thank you, I appreciate it. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the report of our village manager, John Lockerbie.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Sudker, and good evening, everyone. Item A is being removed from tonight's agenda. Item B is regarding project management and owner's advocacy services for new parking garage project at 8031 Niles Avenue and associated Oakton Terrace reconstruction project. Per the redevelopment agreement with E&M Strategic Development to advance the construction of the downtown Skokie Homewood Suites by Hilton Hotel, the village has committed to advance construction of a 301 parking garage, which is considered Phase 1 and will be located at 8031 Niles Avenue. The parking garage will be located on property currently owned by American Landmark Properties, and it's located within the Illinois Science and Technology Park. The village is finalizing a ground lease with American Landmark Properties. Phase 1 construction of the garage will include 200 parking spaces for the hotel and 101 spaces for public use. As part of the redevelopment agreement and to provide hotel guest and event parking, E&M Strategic Development will lease their 200 spaces from the village. In order to accommodate access to this garage and the hotel loading dock, as well as future occupancy for the newly redeveloped 8030 Lamont Avenue, improvements to Oakton Terrace and Lamont, the streets located adjacent to these properties, are needed. Integrated Facility Solutions Incorporated, commonly known as IFS, has been retained by E&M Strategic Development to manage and represent their interests with the general contractor for the hotel project, Russell Construction. In order to provide seamless integration of the multiple complex elements of the project, the garage, Oakton Terrace, and the hotel, staff recommends award of a contract on a sole source basis to IFS in the amount of $10,620 per month for a period not to exceed 18 months. I concur with staff's recommendation and respectfully request mayor and board approval.
A motion for project management and owner's advocacy services for the new parking garage at 8031 Niles Avenue and associated Oakton Terrace reconstruction project is in order. Motion by trustee Pierce-Lovan, seconded by trustee Klein. Are there any comments or questions? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Robinson,
Aye.
trustee Kuhn,
Aye.
trustee Johnson,
I'm going to abstain.
trustee Pure-Slovin,
Aye.
trustee Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sutker.
Aye. The motion passes.
Items C and D were approved as part of tonight's consent agenda, and that completes my report.
Thank you, John. Next item on the agenda is the report of our corporation counsel, Michael Lord.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, trustees. Good evening, everyone. Items A and B were ordinances which were on the consent agenda at the beginning of this evening's meeting and were adopted at that time. Item C is an ordinance which is on my report for first reading tonight and will be on the August 15th, 2022 agenda for second reading and adoption. This is an ordinance which is routine and annually done to instill and to establish appropriations for various entities which are the responsibility of the village, even though some of them have their own governing bodies. Specifically, these include, in addition to the village, general corporate purposes for the Skokie Library, the Fireman's Pension Fund, the Police Pension Fund, the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund, the Motor Fuel Tax Fund, the Community Development Block Grant Fund, the Economic Development Fund, the Water Revenue Fund, the Capital Project Fund, Visitors Bureau Fund, Casualty and Self-Insurance Fund, Local Fuel Tax Fund, Wireless Alarm Fund, the payment of principal and interest on our general obligation debts, the Science and Technology Tax Increment Financing Fund, the West Dempster Street Tax Increment Financing Fund, the Oakton Street Niles Avenue Tax Increment Financing Fund, the Performing Arts Center Fund, the Oakton Street Niles Avenue Tax Increment Financing Fund, the Performing Arts Center Fund, and Special Service Area Number 10 Fund. The fiscal year beginning May 1, 2022 and ending April 30, 2023 is the period for which this ordinance is written. If there are any questions, I'm joined tonight by Julian Prendy, our Finance Director. Otherwise, this will return at the August 15th meeting for approval. Item D is an ordinance which is on my report for first reading tonight and will be on the August 15th, 2022 agenda for second reading and adoption at that time. This ordinance will amend Chapter 46 of the Skokie Village Code by establishing water and refuse rates for year-end 2023, which includes a 52-cent per 100 cubic feet increase in the water rate, or approximately $5.19 increase in the minimum bill, and a 50-cent increase in the refuse fee over the prior year. The water rate increase will be phased in beginning with the August 2022 utility bill cycle through the October 22 billing cycle. The refuse fee increase will take effect on November 2022 billing cycle. Finance Director Julian Prendy is also here if there are any questions. Otherwise, this matter will return at our next board meeting for action. No question.
Trustee Cohn. John, I know we talked about this at the budget hearing, but can you clarify for the public the reason for the 50-cent increase for water as opposed to what would have happened if we didn't do that?
I think you're referring to the refuse fee? Mm-hmm. So the refuse fee was new last year, and the refuse fee was established at the lowest rate anywhere that we could find in the metropolitan area. And so the thought was to increase the rate over a period of 3 years to match the actual cost of picking up refuse. That equates to about $26.50 per month per household. And so as the fee was implemented last year, it was talked about that we would evaluate come this year and see if it makes sense to proceed with getting to that actual cost per month over a 3-year period. And so as we have done the evaluation and looked at our budgeting, we think it is prudent to increase the rate by 50 cents to help cover additional costs in providing the service, but to not implement the full fee over a 3-year period. And so this is intended to be as minimal increase as feasible in order to still try to move towards recouping some of the costs of providing the service.
Trustee Johnson?
I just wanted to acknowledge that we got, I think, 12 public comments tonight written, and 8 of them were asking us to not increase the water fee and the refuse fee. I'm going to vote for these tonight per staff's recommendation, but I hope this doesn't. I hope I'm not a broken record, but I want to repeat something I've said in the past, which is I would love to see the village get rid of the second weekly garbage pickup, which cost the village over $500,000 a year. And our Public Works team has said that 85% roughly of Skokie homeowners do not really need this service. And our Environmental Sustainability Commission has been advocating that we get rid of this. So I'm going to support the increase to the water fee and the refuse fee, but I would like to again ask the board to consider eliminating the second weekly garbage pickup sometime this fiscal year, by the end of fiscal year 2023. Thank you.
Trustee Klein?
John, how about, why don't you explain also, I mean, we had questions about 50 cents. Why don't you explain the water rate hike and why we have to do it?
So the village has been very prudent with the water rate. We're one of the very lowest water rates. We have a visual that will show this in the area. And so the village does have approximately 150 miles of infrastructure that we have to maintain and that is aging. And so with the water rate increase and our anticipated expenditures for the coming year, we will be deficit spending. And so the water rate is intended to have an increase in rate to cover costs, realizing that we can't reach all of our costs in 1 year. And so it's a incremental increase, and we are deficit spending in the water fund in order to maintain the infrastructure. And Julian, you may have some information you want to add.
No, thanks, John. That's the gist of it, trustee. The significant increase in capital this year is what really is increasing the total expense of the water fund. And a majority of that capital increase, we're essentially spending down reserves to cover. To pass on a full cost of providing water service to the residents, we would have to set the rate at $69.61, an increase of $18 a month for the average household. We understand the community, we understand the environment we operate in. We try to set this new rate, sort of balance both the needs of the infrastructure, but also the burden on the community. So setting the rate at $57.56 gives us just enough additional revenue that allows us to cover the rest with reserves.
Thanks. Thank you.
Trustee Ellison, pure slogan.
Trustee Ellison's fine. Thank you. In terms of the refuse increase, I too will support it and will support the water increase as well. But am considering whether or not we should have refuse pickup twice a week. But I'm waiting to hear what the Environment and Sustainability Report suggests to us, since that they've been working hard at it. I would feel that it's not within my privy to make that kind of decision when you've got a committee working on it, and I think we should wait for their recommendation, as you said, and I agree with that, and then I think that we can make a more informed decision whether or not it's in our best interest to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to clarify, so our Sustainability Commission is helping Pale Blue Dot, the group that we've commissioned to help with our sustainability plan. But our actual Sustainable Environmental Advisory Commission has earlier this year, early in 2020, advocated to the board that we eliminate the second weekly pickup and replace it ideally with some kind of food scrap or composting service to handle the extra food waste that goes into landfills.
Thank you.
That would conclude my report, if that's the end of the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. The last item on tonight's agenda is public comments. Does anybody wish to address the board? And if you do, if you could come up and just, you can state your name.
Sure.
Thanks for hearing it from us today. I'm Ryan Smerick, a Central Park neighborhood resident. I'll read from a letter signed by 65 neighbors in the Central Park community. As neighbors of the JCC Camp Apache located at St. Joan of Arc, we seek your attention and assistance with some persistent issues that are affecting the quality of life in our beloved neighborhood. Everyone in Skokie wants to enjoy a peaceful, pleasant summer, We love being part of the neighborhood and having so many diverse friends and neighbors together, sharing Central Park for park district camps and other recreational events. We understand that summer camp season will inevitably bring some increased traffic and noise. However, our daily lives in this residentially zoned Central Park neighborhood have been disrupted by the noise and traffic caused by Camp Apache. Per a letter from the camp, there are more than 500 campers this summer. In contrast, the Skokie Park District Central Park Camp has a cap of 110 campers for reasons including concern for traffic impact from the neighborhood and appropriate number of campers for the physical space. We have no noise or traffic concerns about the Central Park Camp. With so many of us now working from home, noises around our homes and our surroundings are unavoidable to some extent. Unfortunately, for 8 consecutive weeks, the JCC Camp Apache's outdoor loudspeakers play music during camper drop-off at various times during the day and at pickup. We have asked the camp to lower the volume on numerous instances, and while they occasionally do so when asked, the noise level returns and are consistently disruptive to our daily lives. And now I'll pass it over to.
My name is Teresa Shum. I am also a resident of Central Park. When we asked the camp director to limit the use of outdoor amplified speakers, she told us that music is a key component of the camp experience and will not be eliminated. We have called the police to report noise violations on numerous occasions. You can see the attached timeline, but have been told that the amplifier permit exempts the camp from violating the public nuisances. This is from Skokie Village Code, Article 2, Section 42 to 35, and noise ordinances, Skokie Village Code, Article 3, Section 42-78D. No other camps in Central Park use amplified speakers to broadcast music or announcements outdoors. There are reasonable alternatives to this, including using two-way radios for staff communication and moving the amplifiers indoors where campers may enjoy music. Additionally, the traffic congestion on surrounding streets during pickup and drop-off causes not only traffic delays for residents, but is a safety concern for inevitable delays due to a lack of egress should Skokie emergency services, including EMS and fire, be needed during these times. In the past, we have requested to slow down traffic on our street, the road bumps, and we've been told that that's not possible because that Central Park has been designated as an emergency route. But here it is, this camp blocking Central Park. Also, concerning Camp Apache staff, alter the flow of traffic during drop-off and pickup times by turning the two-way section of Lion Street between Central Park Avenue and Lawndale into a two-lane, one-way street. We want to continue to be good neighbors and be respectful of the many different needs and uses of our shared spaces in our community. We hope that the village can help us find a mutually agreeable solution for the issue we have experienced since Camp Apache joined our neighborhood.
Good evening. I'm Frances Aparicio, also from Central Park Avenue. So in response to this situation, we are requesting that the Skokie Village Board of Trustees consider these options. These actions. And an immediate reconsideration of the amplifier permit for Camp Apache. 2, for the future, we as residents of this neighborhood request that amplifier permit requests have a limited scope, not exceeding multiple consecutive days and not granted multiple times per year per property. 3, the village noise ordinance code be changed to remove the statement citing noise from amplifiers as being within the permissible code. 4, any camps utilizing the San Joan of Arc parking lot have a maximum cap of campers below or equal to that of the Skokie Parks and Recreation Central Park Camp, as the physical space is smaller and the traffic more condensed. 5, that non-Skokie Parks and Recreation camps require a permit, similar to special events that are required to attain a permit. 5A, that these camps match the same criteria for maximum camper capacity that are used for the Skokie Parks and Recreation camps. 5B, minor impact of traffic to the neighborhood, that is traffic volumes not leading to long traffic delays, no changes to flow of traffic, and no need to have staff direct traffic. And 5C, camps in residential areas be prohibited from use of an amplifier. 6, any permitted tents in the San Joan of Arc parking lot to be located no closer than 50 feet from any, any boarding, residential property lines. We're looking forward to your consideration and actions on this matter. We welcome an open dialogue with the village and all involved residents. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brianna Quinn, a Central Park neighbor. I would like to start out by thanking the Skokie Parks and Rec Department for being considerate of the safety for campers and neighborhood residents alike at each of their campsites. We have always had great experiences with the Central Park camp. It is clear this is due to the efforts of Skokie Parks and Rec to make camp a safe, enjoyable, and workable experience for campers and neighboring residents alike. In conversation, Skokie Parks and Rec shared that each campsite has a max capacity of campers based on criteria, including physical space, traffic concerns, and rain space. In contrast, the Evanston Camp Apache has over 500 campers. The sheer size of this camp alone has led to the noise, traffic, and safety issues we are here to discuss today. This is why we are asking the Village of Skokie to benchmark against our own Skokie Parks and Rec in the development of a permitting process for camps to include maximum capacity for campers matching those used by Skokie Parks and Rec. The over 500 campers has led to ongoing traffic concerns. There are severe traffic delays, with traffic snaking around Church Street, both ways on Central Park Avenue, and down lines during drop-off and pickup. These delays have impacted us as residents of this area, as well as the concern for access to emergency services. The direction of traffic has changed from a two-way street to a one-way street during drop-off and pickup without any licensing or permit to do so. The camp staff is standing frequently in the middle of Central Park and Lions directing traffic. This includes waving camp parent vehicles through the stop sign without stopping and holding traffic coming in other directions. This raises both immediate concerns for safety at drop-off and pickup, as well as long-term impacts on the culture of safety at this intersection. We have been concerned for the confusion as to the direction of this section of Lions and the impact of disregarding the stop signs at this intersection. Unfortunately, I worry the damage has been done. Just today, I was taking a break from work and warmed up some tea a little bit after 3 o'clock. In the 2 minutes and 30 seconds I was warming up tea at the microwave, I went to my window and looked out, and I saw 2 cars, one of them blocking the pedestrian pathway at Lions, and one of them blocking the west lane of Central Park. Immediately at the same time, I saw 3 cars blow through the stop sign, fail to stop, on Central Park Avenue. All 5 cars were heading to Camp Apache for pickup. This was all in 2 minutes and 30 seconds this afternoon. Regarding the amplifier permit, this permit is for the entire 8 weeks of the camp. This has been like having a block party in our backyards for the entire summer, and we do not wish this on any Skokie resident. That noise violation excuses amplifier permits is a loophole we wish will be resolved. We have created a timeline of the numerous calls and emails in our attempts to address our concerns. When we shared our noise concerns with the city manager, he met with the camp and they agreed upon a decibel level that they felt would be appropriate. It was not effective, and many calls and emails about the noise have followed. We are hoping that today's discussion is used to improve all the concerns addressed in the letter that was sent to the village and signed by 65 of our Central Park neighbors. And we hope it prompts discussion regarding addressing Skokie resident concerns of maintaining a safe and peaceful environment in our beloved Skokie communities.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Hong Wu, a resident in the Central Park neighborhood. In June, when I wrapped up my first in-person school year since the pandemic as an educator, I was ready and excited to take the summer break to rest, reset, and catch up. However, just 5 days after my summer break started, I noticed that a giant white tent was set up right next to my backyard fence, and then 12-ish white picnic tables were placed along the L-shaped property lines of houses that border St. Joan of Arc. On Friday, June 10th, loud music with heavy bass started blasting into my house at 9 a.m., lasting until 10:30. That was the Apache open house time. The camp is here again. I did not think that I would be able to avoid going into my own backyard and sucking it up through another valuable summer break. So immediately, and in the following weeks, I tried to contact multiple people, all the Apache camp management, St. Joan of Arc, the city manager's office, yeah, and I spoke with John Locker over the phone a couple times, emailed them, and the fire department, building department, all departments I could think of. And all I was able to get was that the camp holds a permit. And with the permit, they can do whatever they want. They can place the tent wherever they want, and they see fit, and they can blast the music as loud as they want, for as long as they want. So little campers continue peeking through the holes of my fence to check what I was up to. Their music, their conversations, potty and water announcements, lesson plans, shouting, screaming, continue overcasting my backyard, and frequently through to my house. Even though I had kept all the windows shut, suggested by city officials. On my side of the fence, having a private conversation or doing some work in the backyard was virtually impossible. On July 7th, out of frustration and sense of helplessness, I called the mayor's office seeking help. On the same day, an email from the camp coordinator came informing us that the tent would be moved to 50 feet of the property line on July 13th. So that was literally 4 weeks after the first day of the camp. Okay. Now my summer break is approaching the end with no rest, no reset, and no catch-up done. Today I'm here to request increase of regulations over traffic control, amplifier permits, tent permits, and camp permits in Skokie, so that all residents in Skokie can enjoy their peaceful summer that we all deserve without having to repeat what we have all gone through this summer. Thank you.
Hello, John Santiago, Central Park resident. I just wanted to say a quick word about the importance of considering these ordinances. Camp Apache sent a letter out recently to a bunch of the neighbors mentioning that they wanted to be good neighbors. And I think that's very important for us. I'm a professor, but my hobby is cars. And so I work on cars, and some of the tools that I use, power tools, they make a lot of noise. Some of them have a degree of danger. So when I use these tools, I have to think about protecting myself from the noise and from whatever the danger is. And when I do this, I also think quite seriously about the noise that it imposes upon my neighbors, the danger that it might impose upon my neighbors. So I take it upon myself to cap my activities at a certain time, even though I know that the village ordinance allows me to make quite a bit of noise with power tools late into the evening, past dinner time. But I try to avoid that. Has repeatedly taken steps to protect themselves and their kids without thought or concern for how it impacts their neighbors. Last year, the camp decided that it would be nice and pleasant for their kids to have a small archery range. I agree. I think that's a great thing for a camp to have. So they decided we need to keep our kids safe and position the archery range where their kids would be safe. Apparently that didn't include keeping my grandkids safe, because I had arrows coming over the fence into my yard. That happened on multiple occasions, until I finally had to threaten to call the police and say, you are endangering my kids, because they put the archery range right back up against my back fence and didn't think at all about what might happen to anybody else's kids. When I'm making noise, I think about Brianna, I think about my neighbors, about how that might impact them. This year they decided it would be really fun for their kids to have a bouncy house. You all know bouncy houses, right? They require a generator to run the pump to keep them inflated. And so those things are loud. They make a lot of noise. They're disruptive. So they took measures to ensure that their kids and their campers were insulated as best as they could from those noises. But that didn't include us, because they put that generator right up against our back fence, where you could smell the noxious fumes, and you could hear it incredibly loud, because they didn't think about, we could use a generator which makes less noise. I'm a mechanic. As my hobby, I know these generators. They could have used an inverter generator with a closed casing, but they didn't. They used the largest open frame generator that they could find to make as much noise as possible, just so long as it was away from their kids. So if we had good neighbors, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here asking for your assistance to reconsider ordinances, to reconsider closing loopholes. I can't do anything about a neighbor who isn't a good neighbor, but you can do something about closing those loopholes, and you can do something about reconsidering these ordinances. Thank you.
My name is Catherine Quinn. I live on Church Street. I find myself forgetting about the traffic situation until I find myself in the middle of it in the afternoon, and it's very disturbing. But to add dimension to the traffic situation, no one has really talked about Lawndale. And the other morning, I was out on Church Street westbound at the time that the parents would be driving through the church property and then out on Lawndale to exit then on Church Street, either east or west. And as I'm passing Lawndale, I'm on Church, I'm passing Lawndale westbound, I notice this big long line of cars on Lawndale. And as I passed Lawndale, for some fluky reason, I looked in my rear view mirror, and the first car in that long line of cars shot out in front of a very moving car very close to it. I almost had a heart attack. So, you know, there's multiple issues here with the traffic. It isn't just Central Park, and it isn't just Lyons. It's also Lawndale, and as you may know, Church Street can be a speedway, and indeed, it is much of the time. So can you imagine what calamity could have happened in back of me going westbound and looking in my rearview mirror? Not a good situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If we could just get everybody's name and phone number and email address, if you don't mind giving that to the deputy village clerk, we'll be back in touch as we review all of the situations that you've surfaced and the ordinances and other issues that you have brought up. Thank you so much.
John, can I ask a question?
Trustee Johnson?
I want to ask about what is the process for an organization like this camp to change a traffic pattern on a street like Lyons?
So the camp has occurred for a number of years, and through the years, the police department has been engaged in advising them on how best to enter and exit the site. We do this with schools throughout the community, utilizing the traffic engineering division and the police department. And so through the years of the camp, the police department has been intimately involved and on site there on a regular basis to try to make the traffic as efficient and safe as possible.
Is there any public part of the process, or is there a time for residents to kind of?
There's been a number of interactions of people from the neighborhood sharing concerns and the police hearing those and working to resolve those. I think that's part of why the conversation is happening tonight. I think the village has worked very regularly to listen to the issues of the neighborhood and to try to resolve them, but it's been pointed out that the village did not have specific laws that would allow us to mandate certain things or to retract certain permits. And so we have been aggressively working to facilitate a good neighbor relationship. And I mean, the tent was for example, the tent was very expensive to move, but we were successful in getting the camp to move that tent in response to some of those concerns. The traffic, the traffic is heavy. I've been there during, the drop-off time, and it is heavy. And so we need to take a fresh look at this.
John, we were given another copy of this, and we can assure you that all the trustees have received it. But will you also still be giving us your names of those of you heard tonight with? Absolutely. Okay, great, thanks.
Did I answer your question?
You did. And kind of just in response to the questions about our noise ordinance, our noise ordinance does say that for an amplifier, a noise violation would be the use of an amplifier as to be audible at a distance of 25 feet from the property line where the sound is coming from. So if folks can hear this amplifier from, a block or even 2 blocks away, it's really just this final part of that section of our noise ordinance that permits this, where it says the utilization of an amplifier for which a village permit has been issued shall not be considered a violation of this section of the ordinance. So that really is, I think it was described as a loophole. I mean, that really is kind of the part of this that's allowing, at least from my perspective, what's allowing the noise to continue.
And the nuances of that is that the amplifier permits are issued throughout the community, and there are places where they are utilized and the sound is beyond 25 feet in order for it to cover the entire property where the amplifier is permitted. And so part of the conversation that I've had with some of the residents is that, the carnival occurs year after year in the same property, and there's considerable noise that is associated with that. And so, help us understand how the camp is different from the carnival. And what we have come to understand is that the camp extends over 8 weeks versus a weekend. And so I think there, as you point out, the decibel levels are an issue, but maybe there's some other nuances that need to be considered as well. Even in this area, when I was out on site there, standing on Central Park, or on Lions on the Central Park side, it was interesting that the Park District camp was louder than the camp on the St. Joan of Arc property. And so so there are a lot of nuances that we need to work through.
Thank you, John.
Trustee Robinson?
I just wanted to say, as a resident of the Central Park, I wanted to thank my neighbors for coming out to address the concerns, all of which I've seen and experienced as well, and had an opportunity to talk with folks at the camp, and notice that it's just an ongoing problem with our community. So, I 100% support looking into it, getting more information to see what we can do to close some of the loopholes in the ordinances.
Anybody else? More, come on up.
First, I want to start and say, I live a block away, and I can hear the amplifiers. I was talking today, saying to some family members that where I am a block away from St. Joan of Arc, it would not have made me insane, and I have heard it for many years. But after meeting Brianna at her door, if that was in my backyard, I think I might lose my mind. It is loud. I thought that COVID got really bad again last week because I guess they had a Touch the Truck event, and all day there were sirens. I thought Skokie was under siege or something because I had no idea they were doing that. I was very nervous that I constantly started hearing sirens. But that's not what I wanted to talk about today. I was seeking an update on the bird study that was suggested for Optima. Keith Robinson happens to know, Trustee Robinson happens to know, because he got an earful as he was next to me at a red light on June 9th, that I went to Optima, and I found out this past Wednesday, that a young red-bellied woodpecker who hit the 19th floor window at Optima, higher than birds fly in Skokie, according to Skokie, had trauma and died. I think that the bird study at Optima, regardless of what is happening with Carvana, is super important so that the next time something comes before this board, we cannot say we don't know.
So I would like to know where that stands, because if we truly care, there are other properties in that area. If we are serious about a bird ordinance and knowing better and doing better, I don't want to let this fizzle because Carvana is circling the drain. Because then something else comes up, and again, we don't know, but we've provided you letters with experts who do know, and you have said that you want to do something. When I picked up that bird on June 9th, I asked Annette Prince from Chicago Bird Collision Monitors what was happening with the ordinance. She said that she hadn't heard from the board at all since February 22nd, which was the last meeting. There is no better authority on bird collisions in Skokie, and if she is being left out of this process because she did what was right for our environment, it's inappropriate. But I want to know where we stand with this. I think it was Trustee Kuhn's idea. I can't remember, it might have been Trustee Sutker's. It was a good idea. Optima is still there, and birds are hitting the building higher than you required the markers on the tower. And the bird study is necessary. Birds go into brush, they don't sit there and wait for somebody to make a phone call. So.
The way the bird study was conceived was for it to compare the Optima building with the Carvana building once it was constructed for a year after Carvana was constructed. And so that is what we are working towards, as well as the bird mitigation policy for the village. But that's the status of the study.
So does that mean that if Carvana's held up for another year, we're just not gonna have a bird study? And when another issue comes up with something else that wants to go across from Harm's Woods, maybe it'll be a giant sunglass vending machine, we're gonna say, we don't know, you can do that? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. I was told an ordinance was in the works from a commissioner's wife now.
We're talking about two different, just to be clear.
Okay.
We're talking about two different issues.
But I thought
One
that
is
that's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
One is the study
Right.
that was designed to evaluate Optima and Carvana after Carvana was constructed. And so that was the way that study was conceived. And then in addition to that is a bird mitigation policy, which the village is working on. Both things are in the works, but it doesn't sound like the study is on the timeline that you would prefer.
Well, it sounds to me like I remember from those meetings that study was gonna inform the ordinance. And if that study is not happening, how is this ordinance being drafted, and who is involved in this, or in drafting the ordinance? It just surprises me that it is not the person who handles probably the most bird collisions in our area, not probably, absolutely, in our area.
So let me, I think you're hitting on the issues. And so originally when Carvana was approved, we were going to do the study and then the bird mitigation policy would follow. But as Carvana has been in the process that it is in, we have come to the conclusion that the bird policy needs to move faster. And so we are working on the bird policy, but we have not initiated a bird strike study at this point, because again, the way that was originally designed was to evaluate the two. The village does not have the ability to retrofit an existing building.
Of course.
And so I just wanted to be clear.
Of course, and I'm just suggesting, then I guess I'm suggesting, while Carvana's in limbo, that maybe a study is done at Optima, because there is a lot of property on that street, and if Optima is a problem, that could inform, because if there was a bird ordinance, and I said this during the Carvana meetings, which has been said to death, and I'm not trying to bring that up again, but if there was a bird ordinance, Carvana's structure, Carvana's pathology was very specific, not like any other building, and the answer was, well, we don't really know. And I am saying we need to find out so that we can do better, and so that we can protect that land that volunteers made a protected nature preserve, so that we can protect the creatures that we have drawn to that place with what we're putting there. Whether it's an all-glass senior living facility, fly higher. Oh my goodness. Birds fly higher than that little blurb said, which was 7 stories, because it was the 19th story, and I have pictures. I was gonna send this all to you on June 9th, and then after that, and then everything blew up with the resolutions, and I got sidetracked. But this has been on my mind for a while. I could not believe that I was standing on the 19th floor of Optima with a bird that hit the building. So that's what I'm saying. We know better. I know better. You're saying you don't know better, and I'm looking at you. I don't mean you, but the board as a whole. And I'm saying, find out. So that next time you're not telling us, we don't know, so we're just gonna do this because it's better than anybody else is doing.
Trustee Robinson?
Yeah, I was just gonna. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to speak to how would that process be? I mean, I know it's a private property. Is it something or an agreement or something that the village would do to be able to conduct this study?
Right, it is private property, and there are no when the site plan was approved, this was not contemplated for Optima, and so the village has no right to just do this. It requires a partnership and an agreement with Optima in order to monitor the bird strikes.
Would that be like a part of their board or some?
It would be up to them to decide, what kind of, if they would want a formal policy or if it would be informal, if they would want to collect the, all of those details would need to be worked out.
I can get them to agree.
Yes, please.
I just wanted to add, I would love to see a bird safety design ordinance proceed kind of regardless of whether this bird study takes place. There are lots of case studies of this around the nation and similar ordinances in other places.
And just to be clear, it is in the works. There is a bird mitigation policy that is in the works, just to be very clear.
Okay, and I
We
consider
have your
myself
name,
kind of
please.
intelligent, but I might have missed this, and I have people who want to know the answer to what you're going to tell me that I'm talking to on an ongoing basis. So I want to be able to say, is there an expected date when this bird study, separate from the Kavana, is there a time frame when you can tell us it will be ready? And I think it's Ms. Polka, right? Will her information be passed along to them? That's what I'd like to know.
No, absolutely. All the information that we've collected through the public hearing processes and the staff studies, the number of employees of the village have been studying this issue. Pete Pyer, the interim director of community development, has been intimately involved. Matt Brandmeier, Carrie Haberstich. There's been a number of individuals that are involved, as well as some outside people. And so the precise timeline, we're not quite where the draft is at this moment is not quite ripe where it needs to be. And so I can't give you a precise timeline on when the policy will be ready, but it is in the works and we are working diligently to get it done quickly. It's also important to get it right. And so we have studied policies from across the country as well and looked at different ways of doing this. We have met with an architect that is considered to be knowledgeable in this field. And so there's been a number of steps that have been made in moving forward with this, but it is important for it to be well thought out as we bring it to the public for the public to react to it. And so that is what we're working through. And I can assure you that it is a priority that we are working on and we want to bring it to fruition.
Okay, I'm sorry. I appreciate what you're saying. However, it kind of reminds me of lawyers, and you ask them how long it's going to take, and they're getting paid by the hour, and they drag it out for 5 years, and they say, we're working on it. Is it going to be in fiscal year 2023?
Yes.
Is it going to be by December of 2022? Can we get a little more clarity besides we're working on it? I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it's really, when you ask for any sort of report, research study, whatever, there's always a time frame at the end. I don't understand why there's it's this into the atmosphere feeling. People could be working on this literally for 10 years. That's how long some people work
That's
on
not
PhDs,
acceptable. That's not acceptable.
Okay,
there will be a policy before the end of the year, and we will provide updates along the way. But this isn't, there's going to be a number of steps to this policy, and so I wish I could give you a precise timeline, but as I sit here today, I anticipate that it'll be approved before the end of the year.
Okay, remind me of your last name, please, sir.
Lockerbie,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
And ma'am, if you could identify yourself for the record too, please.
Hillary Hunter.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to address the board? Motion to adjourn. Have a good evening. Thank you for coming tonight.